Welcome to Lockbox, a podcast providing real estate professionals with action items for success. My name is Jeffrey Brogger, and I'm going to be your host. I'm the founder of two real estate marketing and tech companies, STEEZY.Digital and realnurture.io. In this podcast, you'll learn from top 1% real estate and mortgage brokers the exact secrets to their success. Welcome to Lockbox. Welcome to the Lockbox podcast. My name is Jeff Brogger. I am your host, and I am here with Mr. Scott Botelho. Hey, Scott, thanks for being on.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
Absolutely. So why don't you tell our listeners who you are and where you're from?
All right. Well, so I'm located. My name is Scott Botelho. Been in this beloved real estate industry for about 20 years. I'm located on the south coast of Massachusetts. I'm about an hour south of Boston in a city called New Bedford. For a little history buffs, it's the fish and seaport of the capital of the world. The number one seafood port in the world, year in and year out. You look at, we were in there for Herman Melville's Moby Dick, was based out of New Bedford. So that's where I'm at. Like I said, about an hour south of Boston. Everybody knows what Boston is, but we're on the water. It's a cool city. Great little communities around here.
That's awesome. And what got you into the real estate industry?
That's a funny story. So I didn't get into real estate by design. Let's just say that. Probably most people don't. I actually, my dad was in law enforcement. He was a captain in the New Bedford Police Department, the city police department. And, I got to that end of high school and I was given two options. Either A, you go to work full time, or B, you go to school full time. And I tell you what, I'm not into the whole formal education stuff. Kind of Jim Rome, formal education will get you a job. Right? Self-education will make you rich. So I hadn't introduced that stuff at the time, but I just wasn't a good student. Like, academics wasn't for me. If I'm interested in something, I'm in 110%. But if I'm not, like the English is the side stuff, that's not for me. So I didn't want to go to school. So I actually, at 19 years old, I went on his path of civil service, and I became a prison guard at 19 years old.
Wow.
So yeah. What a way to grow up. So I kind of got exposed to a lot of different things that probably 19-year-olds shouldn't get exposed to. So I grew up in prison, really. So during my career there, I realized I don't think I like this. I can't see myself doing this for a long, I would have to have done like 36 years to get the full retirement. I'm like, I'll be toast by then. So ironically, I was probably, I don't know, maybe I'd been there for about 8 years. I was probably like, about 8 years. I got introduced to network marketing. And that's not the game changer here, but part of that whole package was being introduced to personal development.
Right.
And that entirely changed that was a game changer for me. That is the single most important thing that's ever happened to me, is being exposed to it. I know you're a guy that loves personal development. So when I got introduced, I was lucky enough. I had an opportunity to see Jim Rohn speak live, probably in 6 different locations across the country.
I'm jealous.
So I became like a student of that, and I realized, I'm doing all right. I'm in a middle-class America with a good job, so to speak, good benefits, married, 2 small kids, and doing okay. But that's all I was ever going to do. And being exposed to personal development opened up my eyes. Like, wait a minute, there's a lot more out here if you're willing to go for it, right?
Yeah.
All those things, that I learned, that totally transformed my life. And it's the foundation. I tell everybody to this day, your level of income will rise to your level of personal development. That's my belief. That's what I was taught. And when I look around, that's what I see in the industry. That's what I see in my industry, and I feel wholeheartedly about that. So I got introduced to personal development, and I knew I wanted a way out of the prison. I didn't want to stay there forever. The environment was not me. It certainly was far from positive. It was negative with all the other stuff going with it. And so, my ex-father-in-law was a real estate broker. So, I kind of took off in my dad's direction. And then I watched my ex-father-in-law, and I'm like, wait a minute here. I think I could do this. I've been taught the skills. I think this is just a different product. It's all it is. It's a different service, or whatever you want to call it. But I feel like I learned what I need to learn. I've been on that path of personal development for about 5-6 years. I can do this, when I jumped into real estate. And so I said, you know what? I'm watching this guy, and I'm like, if I can talk on the phone and drive. At the time, we weren't even like online, right? So we were just starting to make that jump. So I was like, wait a minute, I can do this, and I can do this for a long time. Because I was limited. I had a high school education. School wasn't for me. I didn't want to jump back into school and try to learn something new. And, being exposed to personal development, I learned, hey, sales is where the top income level people really are, And so I said, I think I can do this. And like everything I do, I jump in 110%. And, that very first company was a small independent company. I got started over there with my ex-father-in-law. He was the vice president of the company. And I did really, really well right off the bat. The first year I was there, I was the top agent. And I remember the broker saying, we'd meet every Tuesday for a company meeting. And he's like, can you tell these other people, how do you do what you do? And I'm like, I'll tell you, you want to do this? Get involved with network marketing, right? Plug into personal development, go to their trainings every single month. Do that for about 5 or 6 years. You'll be prepared for this or anything else, And so I did that for a while. I learned the lead generation game, follow up. My business, what it really looked like at that point, Jeff, was burning and churning. I was on the treadmill. So I was really good at generating leads. I'd follow up like a banshee, close them. And it was just, I was doing the same thing over and over again. I had no back end on this thing. I had no referral business. None of that stuff was in place. It was just burning and churning, and my sales were good because I was willing to follow up. I was willing to make those uncomfortable phone calls. Back then, there was no text. Email was around, but it was really phone calls, And I did that for a few years at that small company. And ironically, while I was there, I got my broker's license because the plan was I would have been eligible to retire in 2007 from the prison. The guy that owned that company wanted to sell that company around then. And so I got my broker's license with the intention of buying that company. And a few years of doing sales, I don't want to own a company. I don't think I want to own. I just want to sell houses. I want to make as much money to do that as I possibly can while I'm doing it. And so I'm still working at the prison full time. I jump over. You're going to hear, I'll talk about Remax. It's got nothing to do with that, but I jumped over to a Remax brand because I thought that was the place to be. This was like 2005. And, that first year there too, I'm working full time at the prison. There wasn't too many part-time agents that I knew at Remax, the model that they had. And I became the top agent in that office too. Still that burning and churning lead generation, just closing them up. And shortly thereafter, the broker of the company asked me about my referral business. And I was like, he's like, how's your referral business? I'm like, what's that? I literally had my referral business was slim to none at best. It just was not good. And so he's like, I think a good idea is for you to take a look at some referral coaching, which I did. I jumped into that and I got kind of open to a whole nother way to do business. And I started focusing, because I had a pretty good book of business at that point, but I had no strategies, nothing in place to go after that referral. Besides good service. And I tell you, good service doesn't mean you're going to get the referral. You got to stay in touch with the folks.
Gotta stay top of mind.
That's right. So I started really focusing on that. My referral business began to grow exponentially, actually. It grew really, really quick. And then from that point, really up until a few years ago, my business was all by referral. My primary business was, I can't remember, probably the last 8, 9 years, maybe even 10 has all been, over 90% by referral. So I'm cranking along. There's kind of a subplot to the story. As I'm doing this, and I'm doing really well for myself, in 2000, as I was working at the prison, I ended up herniating 2 discs in my low back, which required medication. I quickly became a part of what's now known as that opioid epidemic. So basically, from the time I started real estate, I had some sort of problem with that in my life, and I was still killing it. And, that was certainly an anchor. I didn't realize it at the time. And I'm cranking along, and every year I'm top agent in my company and doing really, really well. But the internal thing that's happening to me, which nobody knows about, by the way, is really, it's not well for me. And so in 2011, I decided to reach out for help. And I went down to treatment in Florida for it. And I came back, and this August will be 10 years sobriety. So, but those next handful of years in the middle of that,
7 years in October.
See, here we go. All right. So you know what I'm talking about. So I come back, I'm married at the time. to my high school sweetheart. I got 2 great kids, private school, all the stuff on the outside looks really good. All the material things, and the inside, everything's busted up. But my life just took a turn for those next, speaking from experience now, you understand what I'm talking about. Battling trying to recover from an addiction like that is a feat, right? I had 2 things going on. Not only am I trying to recover from, so my life is not in a good shape. And, I'm struggling now. I'm really struggling to sell like a house a month. My life is in shambles, and it's like that for about 3 years. Matt, I'm going through a bit of divorce. I almost don't remember where the whole those years were at. And everything that I had learned and put in place to get me where I was at that point in time, I couldn't even couldn't function. I couldn't put it together. I just couldn't. I was struggling in all areas of my life. And then somehow in like 2015, man, I started to come out of it. And I remember I flew down. I'm like, all right, and this is where that personal development stuff comes in. Like they say, you can take away everything from the person, but you can't take away those skills, right? Half these guys, millions of dollars, and they earn it right back because they know how to do it, right? And that's the way it worked. And so I had those things inside of me. I'm like, so I started crawling out of that thing. And I started rocking and rolling like 2015. I jumped on a plane. I went down to Dallas, Texas for a seminar on marketing. And it was crazy. It was like a $5,000 trip, which I probably didn't have the money at the time to do it. I literally flew in on like a Wednesday night at like midnight. The training started at like 7 o'clock in the morning on Thursday. It went to like 8 o'clock at night. Then you went and grabbed something to eat, go back to the hotel, do it again Friday morning. I was back on a plane. It's like people said, how was Dallas? I'm like, I don't know. I never saw it, right? It was like in and out. But while I was there, it was like a consultant fee because I'm sitting in the room and I'm like, they kept talking about, hey, make a decision, trust the marketing, go for it. And I'm like, I had to do a business plan to get there. The year before that, my entire business was 100% by referral, repeat, word of mouth business. I'm like, what the hell am I doing, right? I'm going back. I've made a decision. I'm going back. I'm going to put into play what got me here in the first place. I came back, dude. So I didn't even follow up with what I went down there for. I look at it as a consultant fee. I came back that next year. I was the #1 Remax agent in all of Massachusetts. 17, we were killing it. 18, I was #3. By that point in time, my new wife, which we weren't married at the time, she's got her doctorate in education, very successful, owned her own house, really good income, got all the stuff in place. And she's watching me. And she hates her job. She's stressed out. She's in a high pressure job.
I see a real estate partnership coming.
Oh my God, right? So my whole, I have no intentions of building a team, opening up a company. I'm just rocking and rolling, dude. And I'm looking at, and I'll tell you what, it's all word of mouth, repeat referral business, right? It's all fun. And so she's watching me. She's like, you know what? I watch you. You get up when you're done sleeping. You go to the gym. You do your thing. You love what you do. You always have a smile on your face. I think I want to do that. So of course I was like, okay, let's get your license. And so she got her license. So of course I wasn't going to have her go work for somebody else. So I kind of started the team. I started the team, and that was in 2018-ish someplace. It wasn't officially a team at that point. She was kind of just working with me. In 2019, I really formed the team with a few agents, and we became the #3 team in all of Massachusetts for Remax. And the crazy part is before that, I had gone to Vegas. When I got these guys going,
nice.
I joined Boomtown. And while I was down in Boomtown, they have all the different coaches available. I've had coaches on and off throughout the 20 years, different coaches.
Right.
And so I'm down there and I get exposed to Viral Workman. I don't know if you know who he is, the Workman Success Systems. And I hear him talking. I don't do anything about it, but I really liked his style and his numbers that he was talking and all that good stuff. And so the next year, so 2019, in the beginning January, I fly out to Vegas for the Remax convention. And I go to a breakout room. And the topic was how to go from platinum, which is where I was at in Remax, right? To how to go from 500 grand to over $1 million in gross commissions, right? So I'm like, that's the class for me. That's exactly what I want to do. I jumped in there. I ended up hiring that coach assistant. In that 2019, I broke my first $1 million. And then we did it again last year. And so the last couple of years have been really good. Doing, I don't know, 140-ish transactions, went from 40 something million, close to 50 last year. And then I decided, hey, I think it's time to open up a company. And that's what I did back in this past November. So I went from
that's about the time that we met. And
that's it. So that's where I'm at today.
There you go. So from prison
Story.
guard and slip disc to
Mhm,
top real estate agent with the team and now broker. That's quite the story. And I know that a lot of brokers out there that might be listening, they'll be about at that level of over 1 million. Some will be under it. And,
mhm,
1 million net, that's an amazing life. So, congratulations on that success. And I want to really dive into different aspects of it regarding the actions that you took,
yep,
because the purpose of this podcast is to provide real estate professionals with action items for success
mhm,
from all the
mhm.
personal development that I've done. And I'm sure that you'll agree with me. Whatever you put into your mind doesn't mean anything unless you take action on it. And as a sales representative, taking consistent actions over time, right? Consistency, so
Compound effect,
key.
baby.
And then actually taking action, that's the compound effect, right? So you build that
Baby.
momentum, and that's where everything. So my goal is to provide real estate professionals out there with a nugget or two, actual
Mhm,
actions that you take
yep.
every day. And so that's the next question. What's the single most important action that you take every day that has attributed most to your success?
So I'm a task guy. So I've always been like this. I use it, and I'm old school. I mean, I'm going to throw these names out. I still use Top Producer as my contact management
I
system,
know
right?
I integrated with it for you.
Right. So, but seriously, so the bottom line is this, because what you just said, it needs to be like, I try to hammer this home with people. Like, I love to work out, right? That's a big
Right.
part of my life. It has for a long, long, long time since I was a young kid. And I tell people, you could read every book about nutrition, every book about exercise, what order to do it, how to do this. But if you never pick up the weights or you never step foot in the gym, you get zero results. You got to do the action. So I think that's what's really helped me to kind of do well in real estate, is the fact that I'm action oriented. So the biggest thing that I do, I live out of my contact manager, right? So every past client goes into a 20-year follow-up plan for me.
20
So
year.
20 years. The first 10 are going to be made up of calls, emails, handwritten notes, anniversary cards, birthday, all that stuff, right? That happens for the first 10 years. And if they're still here, in the next 10 years, it's a little bit less. I have like the anniversary cards, the home buying anniversary cards, a couple calls per year, blah, blah, blah. Because most of the people don't make it to that any point anyway. But I have that for the few that do. So everybody, like I said, whether it's a past client, they go in there, they get assigned a plan. So I always know when I'm going to talk to the person next. They may not know, but I know, right?
Mm.
And all I do is execute those tasks. I wake up, I open up my thing, send handwritten note to Mary Smith. I just have to execute that. I don't have to remember the
Wow.
stuff. The emails are automatic. I got to execute the calls, the cards, things like that. And same thing with prospect. Whether I have a buyer or a seller prospect, every single one of them goes into an action plan, and I just execute the points on the action plan. The contact manager tells me what to do. So the funniest thing is, I tell people all the time, there's nothing I do that nobody else can do. They just don't do it. I
Hmm.
still talk to people that have been in the business 15 years. They don't have a contact manager system. I'm like, how do you keep track of people? I totally blows my mind. It really
Right.
does. But I mean, that would probably, if I had to have only one thing, it'd be my phone and my contact manager, and then the rest, would be bonuses.
Well, I
And
love
so
that, having that 20-year plan. It's almost like a Japanese businessman having a 100-year business plan, right?
it, it,
When
it,
the average business in the US doesn't even have like a quarterly plan for the next quarter,
it,
right? So
you look like a G. I'm telling you, like, everyone's like, how do you remember all the anniversary? I don't.
yeah.
I assigned a task. It's going to tell me, hey, it's their 1 year home anniversary, right? So I'm going to send out the card. They're going to get the email. They're going
Yeah.
to get a phone call from me, right? I don't have to remember that. I just got to execute it,
Right.
So
And that's
that's
using
that.
technology to make you look good and to, automate some things, but then remind you of others. So when it comes to my company,
Mhm.
STEEZY.Digital, you joined a
Yep.
couple months ago. You already had Boomtown and some other stuff going on, but how would you describe what I've been able to help you with?
So a couple of things, right? Prior to that. So I started using lead generation. If it was just Scott Botelho in my own personal business, I would just him. I would spend money in my database. That's it. I wouldn't advertise. I really would. It'd be very, very limited what I would do, right? But understand, and I have a team and a company that I'm building. I'm teaching these guys how to build referral business, but I'm also giving them many, many at bats. And so I have lead generation systems to do that. I think one of the things, as we talked the very first time we talked, I mean, for me, I'm 53, right? So I'm not hip with all the technology stuff, but I also understand social media is a huge thing, and I was missing it.
Yep.
So to be able to come for a couple of things, you can number one, I'm a numbers guy, right? We talked about that. So we can scale.
Yep.
That's what I like about it. But I think, having you guys handle that stuff for me, it's a weight off my shoulders. I don't want to do it, right? I don't have to do it. I still get the results from it, So I can see, as I just told you, I mean, to be fair, we started out with a buyer campaign, right? So we let that rip. We already have tons of buyers that were working. We switched over to the seller thing. We've already been in one house. We're just getting ready to list that, but we got a lot of people in pipeline. That's all I'm looking for, because now these guys have in their pipeline and they can do their follow-up like I taught them. You know what I mean? So, but you guys, having that attack on social media that I don't have to learn how to do it, that's huge for a guy like me,
Yeah, absolutely. And, that is the exact need that I saw years ago. I noticed that there were a lot of real estate brokers out there that were in their 50s. They're amazing at real estate. They've been doing this 25 years, but they really struggled with all the digital stuff. And that's the exact pain point I could help alleviate. So glad to hear that. Thank you.
What I love about it too is, like, the reality is we're looking for a return on investment. I think we get a lot more at bats at a reasonable cost per lead than you would in some other sources.
Exactly.
So that's how I feel about it.
When you get 10 leads for $200 rather than one lead.
Damn straight.
Right.
I'm a guy, right? A lot of averages. I want as many as I can to pump those numbers through, figure out what the numbers are, and then we can scale from it. That's how I see expansion, and is scaling from what we have going,
Yeah, absolutely. And with that in mind, where do you think the industry is heading? What are your 5-10 year projections? And then what are you doing right now to set yourself up for future success?
So I don't know 5 or 10 years. I don't know. Hopefully, I don't think relationships are ever going to disappear. At least I hope they don't. Where technology is going to totally replace us. Could it? I think anything's possible. I think part of what I've done and what I hope I've done is worked on building relationships over a long period of time that'll continue to carry me into the future. But in terms of what I'm doing personally, I got some good stuff in place, some good lead sources. And it's about understanding the numbers and then saying, hey, I have a small company. I got 10 agents and myself and an admin, right? And I'm able to provide these guys value. And if I want to grow, all I got to do is say, okay, this is what we spend here. This creates this. This turns over to this. So I want to bring somebody else on, or 2 or 3 people. We just ratchet it up a smidgen to match what we currently have going. So the scalability in what I'm doing, I think, is the most important. So right now, I'm not afraid to try new things, but I know it works. We keep doing those. We throw something new in the mix. If it works, we keep that. And then now we can just scale with that as we want to grow. But right now, with the new company, I got a lot of new agents. I want these guys to be real rock solid on what they're doing before I even think about expanding more people, because that takes time too. We're comfortable where we're at in terms of right now, and then we'll go from there,
So systems and scaling.
Systems.
Having those systems in place. And I tend to agree with you. Obviously, we're not writing things down on paper anymore and, making phone calls, doing everything in person, especially in the digital age, which was fast-tracked by COVID-19. Now, Zoom appointments are much more common. The consumers are accepting that much more. You could do a FaceTime open house. Like, there's so many new things out there. But at the end of the day, like you mentioned, relationships are the biggest key. And, that's what I hope that my marketing and technology tees up, is that qualified sales conversation between you and a prospect. Because from there, like I mentioned, you got the communication skills, the phone skills, everything to take it to that next level, put them in your database, follow up, develop the relationship. But having that digital footprint is so important. So yeah, I'm a firm believer in that.
With every new person that comes in, I always think that's just an addition to my sphere of influence. And the average person, I think they say, knows at least 200 people, because that's who'll come to you at your funeral, right? So, I bring in a new person that I didn't know. That expands my sphere by 200 people. I just take care of them, give them the best service. And like I said, that follow-up stuff after, that's magical. I got, text and emails and calls to just support that over the years. People, how can you not love that?
Right.
People love to be thanked and appreciated. I don't care. Like, I like to be thanked and appreciated. Why wouldn't somebody else, And it blows my mind that people in sales, especially, haven't figured that piece out, But then again, I was at that point where I was just looking for the next one, you know what I mean? Instead of realizing the pot of gold is right here.
You've already done the hard work. Right.
You've already done the hard work.
Right. Yeah. So what do you do for your clients that nobody else does in the industry that you know of?
I don't know if nobody does it. I just think going back to, I had that set way of doing things, prior to COVID. One of the things we always did is each individual sale, we would do a client appreciation party right there on the spot. That's kind of gone by the wayside. We'll bring that back. That worked really, really well for us. I love that because most of my business is by referral, and it allows you to get to their direct sphere quickly, because it's not like being at a house that you just closed on and the homeowners, but you really don't know everybody else. And so they're going to introduce you to everybody else. And it's like,
That's
hey,
right.
this is my real estate. He was the greatest guy in the world. And I go, my mortgage broker, this is the mortgage guy. He got me a mortgage. And I've gotten so much business from that. And it's awesome to just see anyway. So that was one of the things that we love to do. And I'll bring that back as soon as we can. We still offer it, but nobody's taking us up on it. But I think that consistent, here it goes right back to what you talked about in the beginning, consistency over a long period of time. And so I've gotten so much business, and the people have told me, I can't believe, like, every year on my house anniversary, here comes a card and a box of brownies, right? So those touches throughout the year that plan lays out for me, that I just execute. Right. I don't think I do any, I just do it, I think, is the main thing. And, giving me, I call you a couple times. Every one of my clients becomes like family. We have that relationship. And so calling them up is, we can have a good conversation about the kids, job, whatever the case may be, But I think it's made up of, there's a lot of gifts that I do. I'm one, if I see something, I'm big on, I think everybody posts stuff on social media now. They let you know when things are good, and they let you know when things are bad.
Right.
And so what I do is I have a tool that I use that allows me to do that. And I tell everybody, I don't do this. You got to get your mind right around this. One of the best books I've ever read is The Power of the Human Connection by Cody Bateman. And he talks about, listen, if you do these type of things to get business, you will get no business. If you do these type of things because it's the right thing to do, it just comes to you, and I don't know what it is. That's been my experience. And so when I see, somebody, one of my clients, their dog passes away, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm sending them a sympathy card with a picture of their dog that they posted on Facebook, right? With a sympathy message in there. And that's it. Everything I send out, by the way, nothing says Scott Botelho, realtor, home and key real estate. My phone number's not in there. They know who I am.
Right.
There's another good book that I read, and I'm trying to think what the heck it is. That's what really got me to think to remove all that stuff, but that'll come to me. Maybe. I don't know. I'm an old man. So, I do those type of things. My clients have a baby. This gets so much response. So I send them, the family, a card, right? Congratulations on the newest addition, Jim Smith to the family. I'm glad everybody's well, with a picture of the baby, a picture of the family. And I send a blue giraffe if it's a baby boy, a pink giraffe if it's a baby girl. But then I also take it one step further. All the brothers and sisters, I send them. So if they have two older brothers, I send each one of the older brothers a congratulations card. You're going to be a great big brother. I see you doing big things. Help your parents out. And I send them like some some celebration brownies, right? Stuff like that goes, it's crazy. The message I get back, it's like, these people take a bullet for you, And again, the intention is not, hey, I don't have any expectations. I'm not sending you to get something back. I'm sending you because it's the right thing to do. Congratulations to you, Right. And as a result of that, I mean, I got so much mileage this past year from COVID. I was sending out cards, and it said, when we couldn't get toilet paper, it was like, keep this card in case you need it for toilet paper, right? And that was on the front cover. And I was sending it out to all the people on the front line, correction officers, firefighters, nurses, anybody who was in those type of fields, just thanking them for doing what they do. We really appreciate you being on the front line. I tell you what, I closed at least 3 pieces of business recently, probably to the tune of like, I don't know, $25,000, $30,000, because I sent out a card and just said, thank you. We really appreciate you getting on the front line. So those are the things. I get passionate about this stuff. I get fired up, if you can't tell. So I don't know if it's anything like super crazy. I think it's consistent, and it's like clockwork. Every birthday, every anniversary, every wedding anniversary, 2 or 3 times a year, they're getting the calls, all that stuff packaged together. I think that's what's the difference maker.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And I'm curious because there are so many things out there. I mean, real estate agents and brokers are so sold to. You're probably saying no all the time to some stuff. So do you have any type of process to say no to something, to evaluate how to say no? Because focus is critical, right? So you said you're willing to try some things, but at
Yep.
the same time, you got to be either willing to like either shut something off or say no to certain opportunities in order to really scale your number one plan A thing
hmm
to the desired level that you want to get it to. So do you have a process for that, for saying no?
I think for me, like, no, so that's a very important thing to learn how to say no, because you'll waste a lot of time, right? I just had some young kid who just got his mortgage license and called me up and let's get together for a meeting. I'm like, hey, it's only 10 minutes and there's no pressure. So listen, I don't want you to take this the wrong way. I'm a busy guy. Like, if I have an extra 10 minutes, I want to spend it with my wife. No offense, right? So I don't want to waste your time. I can always make more money, but I can't get back more time, right? So,
That's
and he
right.
loved that. And he's like, you know what? I respect that. But no, I think for me, I have to be open to it. Like I'm almost thinking of it, before we connected, I knew this was a problem. Our first call was like, let's go. Like, here's my problem. You have a solution. Let's go.
Yep.
So I get hammered all the time with different things, maybe some stuff is good and I turn it down. It's just the way it is. Because for me, I would rather be good at a few things and just do these things over and over and over again than have a whole bunch of stuff that I'm all confused. I can't do it. I believe like even with leads, I think sometimes too many leads are no good, right? Because then you can't properly follow up with them seriously. And it's counterproductive. You feel like overwhelmed. Like I can't follow up with these people.
Right.
So you follow up with nobody. And, those are some of the dangers. So I don't know.
That brings me to a great next question. I'm glad you said the word overwhelmed
Yeah.
because being a real estate professional, all of a sudden when you get your license, you have to wear 15 hats now. You didn't realize that you're now a small business owner. And if you're doing a team, you got to do HR and you got to do marketing, you got to do lead generation, you got to do all these things, right? You're not just out there
Mm,
meeting with people selling houses all day,
yeah.
although that's the intention and everyone wants to get to that point. Oh, and then eventually, obviously, remove themselves entirely and have their team do that. But when you're overwhelmed
hmm
or unfocused, do
Yeah.
you have any questions you ask yourself to get back on track?
No. So, this kind of goes back to my recovery, man. I step back and I realize I'm not in control here. So, sometimes, I need to step back and remember the serenity prayer. If I can control it, if can make changes, I'll make If I can't, I'm willing to let it go. So sometimes I have to ask myself these things in a quiet moment. I try to do different things to stop that from happening. Again, I'm very systematic, very routine in my life too. So I start every day, almost on the Hal Elrod Miracle Morning stuff. I get up, I pray, I meditate, I read some recovery stuff, I read some spiritual stuff, and I read some business stuff. And it's just, I try to tell people on that too. You don't have to read 1,000 pages, but if you read, matter of fact, I'm reading the book you gave me right now and loving it, right? It's the first chance I've had to start it, and awesome book, but
Awesome.
that compound effect is probably my favorite book. And so I could see where this is going with the slight edge. It seems a lot of the same stuff, but like you just do a little bit of it consistently over that
Mhm.
period of time, you'll be like amazed. So I start my day off like that. I work out, so I try to blow off some steam. So, hey, do I get overwhelmed like everybody else? Yeah, I do. But I think at those points, I try to put some stuff in place to not get overwhelmed. But when I do, I have to step back, man, and I kind of revert to what I learned in recovery and say, all right, what am I so stressed? I'm usually, what I found, my experience, we get most stressed and overwhelmed about things that we have no
Mm.
control over. And so once I understand that, I'm like, the reason why I'm so stressed is I have no control over this. I got to let that go. That's not my job. That's the lender's job. Back in the day, I used to take all that responsibility on myself. What's the mortgage guy doing? The appraisal's bad. There's the home inspector. Hey, wait a minute. That's
Right.
not, it nearly killed me. It nearly killed me. So now if I have control over it, I can do something about it. I do it. If I don't, I got to let it go. And it's not always easy. It's not always easy, but
Yeah, that makes total sense. And just knowing, being clear about what you can and cannot control, then taking action on what you can control, so critical. Do you hear any bad recommendations given to real estate professionals?
I hear all kinds of bad. I see
Here's your
all
time
kinds.
to share. Yeah.
I don't know, like, I worry about me. I worry about me. I worry about my team. But I see a lot of stuff out there that just doesn't make sense. I think some of the biggest, when I got in the business, one of the best pieces of advice I got from my ex-father-in-law was, remember this. The most valuable people in your sphere are going to be other real estate agents. Don't ever forget that. Like, these people can
Mm.
make or break you, right? Don't choose a commission. Be ethical, in other words, because, you can make a commission and burn somebody, And guess what's going to happen? You'll never do business with that person again. I'm in this for the long term. I'd rather give up that sale and do it the right way and have those relationships intact. But I don't know, like I see people jump into a bunch of stuff. I don't care what it is, Jeff. There needs to be a system to it. So if you're going to do, expired listings and you think you're going to go knock on the door, this is the worst thing that can happen to you. Knock on the door, the person lets you in, you list the house, because that's not how it works, right? So you think that's how it works. So that's all you ever do is that one knock and you never get anywhere and you get frustrated, blah, blah, blah. There has to be a system to it, So I think some of the bad, I see people like, don't jump into it like that. Or they'll do, let's mailings. You want to do mailings, you better be doing 5,000, 10,000 a month of the same thing for a while before you expect any results. You send out a small fraction of that piece one time, just go over to the trash can.
And you don't get rich.
And throw it in there.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to work. And again, the worst thing that could happen to you, I hate to say it, the worst thing that could happen is one person responds and you think that's how it works, So I wish sometimes they would tighten the reins. I'm speaking from Massachusetts in terms of, what it takes to get your license and more importantly to hold it. I think, if they made our dues $5,000 every year, we wouldn't have 30,000 agents in the state. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry just from the hip, So, but again, even I was in a really high producing Remax office, and there was a lot of good teams in there, or producing teams, and I would have no idea what this guy's doing or this girl's doing. I go into the corner office. This is what I do. You know what I mean? What they choose to do is up to them. Getting saddled down with any of the information is not going to help me. I don't want to get distracted, because that's what's going to happen. You can get distracted because this sounds good. I think every lead generation system works to a degree, some better than others. But what I see from past experiences, agents will go out and they start this plan, whatever it's going to be. I'm going to do Boomtown. And, it's like planting a garden. They go plant the garden and then they go look 2 days later, there's no vegetables. How come it's not there? Right? This doesn't work. Boomtown doesn't work. And they dig up the garden and then they plant the new garden, and that's the Zillow garden, right? And they're in that 3 days and they don't have anything from that. And they're like, this doesn't work. And they never give the time for the garden to produce that takes water and nurturing and, the sun and the rain for a period of time before that stuff yields results. And I think people want everything yesterday, so they don't allow that to unfold. And they're jumping from system to system to system to website to you name it. I've had the same stuff. Literally, we've added some technology stuff, don't get me wrong, but the same concepts that I did 20 years ago, I'm doing today. Sometimes we just use technology to tweak it, hit more people maybe, right. But process is still the same. Lead comes in, contact manager, send them a card, add them to an e-alert, add them to a follow-up plan, execute those plans, close them, put them in the after sale program. It's a system,
Yep. No, that makes total sense. And what you said about the garden is so key. I had to shoot multiple videos to set expectations after clients joined. And I'm pretty sure you watched a couple of those and saying, look, this is a process, right? We're going to help generate leads for you. We're going to help follow up. And it's going to take a certain degree of months before the leads that are generated today close. And then once the cycle is rolling, you have, say, like a 6-month hopper, right? You have a 6-month pipeline, and then now like the people that you got in touch with 6 months ago already, or 12 months ago already, but you're just filling the top of the funnel, because I would post case studies, which you want to post the best case studies, right? And so, I launch a client and she gets a double in listing day one, right? Amazing. But that's not every client. Right. So I had to set that expectation. I think it's so important that you set the expectation for others. Even if they don't use my services, if they go out and use any lead generation service, what one of my other clients says is, if you're not going to give it a shot for a year, don't do it. Yeah, like that's his philosophy.
Yeah. And that's a good philosophy. I think you can't even blink at 6 months. That's nothing. But I remember when I got involved with Boomtown, and the coach at the time, they said, listen, you need 19 months to see what your because by then that pipeline's full. We've got it broken down, and that's going to tell you after that, you're going to see what you're really going to get. And we've done extremely well with that. And again, that's no better than Commissions Inc. or one of the other ones, Conversion. It's just picking one and then doing it. and
Yeah.
jumping all and doing it.
Trust the process.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I'm curious,
Yes.
what is one of the most worthwhile investments you've ever made? This could be something big or it could be something small.
Be honest with you, right off the bat, the best investment I ever made was an admin. That's the truth. That's the truth. You know, I was such a control freak, want to do everything myself, and that's what immediately come to my head. I've spent a lot of money. An admin, anyone coaching has been great investments for me. But
I think what's most applicable to real estate is the admin, though, because that was the advice that, my broker who's, I just got my license. I said, what should I do year one? He said, well, I would get an admin, a personal assistant, not a transaction coordinator company, but actually an assistant who's going to help you with everything. Wash your car, go, check your emails. Like, you need someone to just handle all that because you need to be focusing on listings, lead generation, right? Like the income producing activities.
If you would ask, she'll tell you, I don't fix a thing around the house, right? Yeah. I don't cut grass. I don't cook, right? I have all my meals. I get up, I go to the gym, and I come sell houses, right? Because I would rather pay people. I learned a long time ago, that was a Jim Rohn thing, right? Why are you doing minimum wage jobs when you're worth X amount of dollars? You're better served making money and paying people to do those other. Now, I know it's tough because sometimes you're in that position, you feel like you can't. But I was listening to a podcast from Tom Ferry recently. He's like, if you don't have a personal assistant, guess what? You are the personal assistant. Right? So I'm going to be honest with you. So the year I didn't hire an admin, I want to say to like 2018, that 2016, I did all those transactions by myself. No admin, no showing agents, just me, myself, and Irene. And it's fine. I look back, I'm like, whoa. I mean, I did everything from ordering, putting the sign in, final water reading, smoke detector certificates, coordinating with the attorneys, getting mortgage payoff, you name it, basically showing agent, listing agent, transaction coordinator. So, that was probably the best move that I did. And, letting go, and still sometimes I have a hard time. I still like to oversee what I got going on. I'll have a pipeline meeting with my admin at least 2 times a week, go over all the transactions. I still like to know, so I don't fully just close my eyes, because we're talking contracts and people's money's at risk. So,
you want to keep your finger on the pulse. So do you have any type of method for outsourcing? For example, I've heard if somebody can do that job 80% as good as you, then you should outsource it. Right? Do you have any type of method for that? Because even though it's hard for everyone to start outsourcing and handing things over, you seem to have been able to, over time, successfully do that with different parts of your business. Now you have 10 agents, you have an admin, you have things taken care of for you. So you have breaking through that barrier. Do you have any process for that?
Like now, so the only thing I really outsource is coordinating smoke detector certificates for my seller clients. I have a third-party company that does it for me. That's one of the things I used to do. I go, meet the fire department, install the stuff, because I'm not going to have, 76-year-old Mary get up on a step ladder and do it. So it's kind of part of the service that I would do over time. And I realized, wait a minute, So what I try to do is remove myself from some of the simple things. Like, I used to be worried about going and let the appraiser in. I'm not worried about that anymore. It's Mr. Seller, you going to be home Thursday at 3:00? Yeah. Or can you be home Thursday at 3:00? The appraiser, his name is, Mark Smith. He's going to show up. You just need to get him in the house. He's going to take some pictures. I don't even want one of my people doing that. So the water rings, those things, I used to run and go do all that stuff. But outsourcing, the only thing I outsource right now is, I outsource marketing, right? People I don't really do any of the marketing stuff that I do. It's all third-party vendors. So we're just fielding leads and plugging them in and putting them through our system, our follow-up system. But no, my admin does a lot of the stuff that I used to do.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And it seems like once it gets to a point where it's taking away from your highest income producing activities, that's when you notice that friction and you're like, hey, something's got to change. I got to put someone in place for this. Would that be accurate?
Yeah.
Cool. Well, hey, this has been an awesome interview. Thank you so much. And I do have a last question. Is there something I should have asked you or anything from earlier that you'd like to expand upon?
I don't think so, man. We gave it a whirl. I'm an open book. I'm sure my stuff, if anybody wants to reach out to me, they certainly can. I'll be willing to talk to anybody.
Yeah. And how can listeners contact you?
Well, easy. You can call me on my cell phone at 508-789-8529. You're probably going to post up my social media pages.
Yep.
You can reach on social media. I'd love anybody that's listening if they want to friend me at Home and Key Real Estate on Facebook and Instagram and kind of go from there. But I'm here, like anybody wants to chat, I'll talk to anybody. You know, one of the things I learned too, it's like I've done so many presentations for other offices. People are like, you do that? I'm like, I got a way. Listen, helping people comes back to me every time. Just does. Service, man. The more I give away, the more it keeps coming back to me, because I feel like this. You're not going to be able to take my business. You know,
That's
my
right.
business is my business. I'll show you what I did. You can try it. You know, you can do it, but you ain't going to take my client, so I'm not worried about it, you know?
That abundance mindset is so key. Having that abundance mindset, sharing your secrets, helping other teams, because like you said, it's always come back to you, number one. And number two, that underlying confidence, like, no, I take care of my clients. They take a bullet from me. Like, you're not going to take them. So why do I care?
That's right. Because, you know, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's all right. And I truly feel like I work with a couple of different buddies of mine, own real estate companies. We brainstorm all the time.
Right.
You know, one of the local closing attorneys like, man, I can't believe you guys share that much. I'm like, he can't take my business. I can't take his. We share ideas to expand our own personal business, not for me to go steal his clients, you know? So.
Right. Absolutely. Well, Scott Botelho, everyone, Home and Key Real Estate out there in Massachusetts. Thank you so much. And this show is definitely going to help some people out there. So I appreciate you.
Thanks for having me on, Jeff. I really appreciate it. And best of luck, everyone.
You got it. Thank you for listening. If you want to accomplish your real estate goals, then I highly suggest downloading my free Ultimate Real Estate Goal Setting Framework. The link is in the description of the show, and it will help you break down your annual income goal into the amount of phone calls, appointments, or open houses you need in order to achieve that goal. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.